Hi Nick, Thiago here from Tennis Stroke Analyst. Welcome to your match analysis. In this lesson, my goal is to show you some important things that you should be doing talking about the tennis strategy, considering the 5 game actions, which is serve, return, when you are rallying with your opponent, when you are at the net, and when your opponent is at the net. First of all, let's take a look at your first and second serve. The first thing that I see is a considerable gap between your first and second serve. And this happened because a lot of amateur players, they think they have to go all in their first serves. And the problem with this is that we amateur tennis players used to have a low percentage of our first serves in. And it makes we play very often with a weak second serve. Another thing that I want you to consider is that a lot of tennis players, they have a mindset of returning the first serve of his opponent and just try to neutralize this stroke. Because of that, doesn't make sense you take this risk, especially if you don't hit aces very often. The second idea I want to talk to you is what you should be doing just after you hit your serve. Sometimes you did this mistake and sometimes you didn't, but I want you to know what's going on just to make sure it doesn't become a habit. Unless you intend to serve and volley, after you hit your serve, you need to step back and split step behind the baseline. This is the best way to keep the point going, especially if your opponent hit a deep return. And the last thing I want you to be thinking more about the serve is the shot placement. I like a lot to use the wide serve because with this type of shot, you can move your opponent to the left and to the right side of the court, and then for your next shot, you have plenty of room to make it. Continuing now, let's talk about the second game action, which is the return of serve. The most of the times, the return of serve needs to be a quick action. And because of that, we have to make sure that we are split stepping exactly at the time our opponent hits the ball. And as I can see, you are doing it very good. So congratulations. But now I want to share with you 2 things that's not going very well in order for you to improve your return of serve. The first goal of the return of serve is to keep the ball in play, and this action you are doing quite often. But to make it works better and helping you to neutralize more the serve of your opponent, you need to hit the ball deeper into the court. Because once you give your opponent a weak and short ball, you will be under attack. To help you do that, after you split step, try to keep your body moving forward into the shot. Also, try to hit the ball a little bit heavier and higher over the net. And the last, aim straight against to your opponent, because this is the best shot placement you can do in order to neutralize the server. And the last thing about the return of serve, I want to talk with you about some strategy about returning the second serve of your opponent. As we can see, your opponent misses the first serve, and when he goes to his second serve, you choose to get a ball using your backhand. And here is the idea. Every time that your opponent hits the second serve, and you can move around your backhand and use your forehand to hit against the backhand of your opponent, is that what you should be doing? So try to figure out and join all the pieces of this puzzle, and I'm quite sure you are about to hit much better returns of serve. Following the next action we are going to discuss, let's talk now about the rally. This sequence shows us exactly what I want you to do at the beginning of a point, which is hit deep strokes to maintain your opponent behind the baseline. We can also see that the best way to do that is hitting the ball high over the net because it helps the ball to land deep into the court. So at the beginning of a point, don't rush, hit deep, and remember that your opponent makes mistakes too. Another tip that I have for you to help you improve your game playing from the baseline is be more patient and wait for better opportunities to switch your stroke from topspin to slice shots, just like you tried here to do a drop shot. Always prefer to do this type of shot when you get your opponent in trouble and when you're playing inside the baseline. The next game action we are going to talk is when you're playing at the net. And as I watched this match, I suppose that you like to go to the net very often. So I hope these tips help you a lot. First of all, it's important for you to know that we go to the net in three conditions at the game. The first one is when you serve and volley. The second one is when you get your opponent in trouble. And the third one is when you get a short ball from your opponent. This first example, your opponent hits a second serve and you get into the court to hit a short ball and come to the net. But you fail being offensive in your approach shot. And your opponent don't have trouble to handle it, so that's why he gives you a low ball to volley and you miss. The second example, you played a little bit better. You took time from your opponent, play inside the baseline, and you make he hits the ball in movement. When he gets to the ball was low, so he needs to hit up. You made the split step exactly at the right time and at the place of the court you should be. But you could have done more with this volley, hitting the ball at the empty court, especially with a smooth short volley. But fortunately, your opponent ends up missing his shot. And the next idea that I want to share with you when you're playing at the net is that you have neutral or defensive volleys and the offensive volleys. In this play, you came to the net, but you have a tough cross-court shot to handle with your volley. And in this scenario, which is a defensive scenario, I suggest you to keep the ball in play exactly at the same half of the court that you are. And that's because for your next shot, you would be closer to the place that you should be. And in this case, you lost the point because you can see that you choose the wrong shot. And now, the last action that we are going to analyze is when your opponent is at the net. The main idea when our opponent is at the net and we are playing defense is to involve and not avoid the opponent. When you far to the side of the court and playing defense, you have basically two better options to keep the ball in play. When you have your opponent on the tee or closer to the net, the best shot that you can have is trying to lob them. Most of the times, they will try to finish the point. And if you make them move back, this is gonna be a good recipe for them to make a mistake. And the other great play that you should be keep doing when your opponent comes to the net is a short cross-court shot. And this is because it is a tough shot to handle, especially on volleys, that will probably lead them to make a mistake or hit a defensive volley that pops up to the net and gives you the opportunity for a passing shot. So that's it, Nick. I hope you liked your lesson and I hope it helps you to improve your game. And if you already have any doubts, please don't hesitate and reach me out that I'll be glad to answer. Thank you so much.